All right. So hello, everyone, to another Urban Creatives project webinar, which is founded by You've Included organization. If you don't know our website yet, I shared a link on the Zoom chat, and you can also find it in the description in the Facebook event. On our website, you can find a lot of materials about ecology, healthy lifestyle, and you can also explore our map, where you can find many local eco-friendly and English-friendly places in Czech Republic. Okay, and now I will give a word to our lecturer, Terka.
Okay, hello people. So my name is Terka and I am absolutely new to this project now. Hello. You know, guys, if you can turn on your cameras, I'd be really happy if you did, because it's always so much easier talking to actual people, right? We know that. So thank you, Sam. Okay, so today I would like to talk to you a little bit about different types of plants that you can grow in your flat if you're really busy, right? Because we're all kind of busy and we all know that it's important to spend time on things that make us happy, but also there's a lot of things that we need to do all the time, and plants are definitely something that can make us happy. So I'm going to share with you a presentation, and I'm going to briefly start by talking a little bit about myself so we know what's going on here. So, plans for a busy lifestyle. So, something about me then. I am a teacher originally, so this is kind of like normal for me at this point in life, but I must say that plants are definitely something that has been holding me up in the last year a lot, because I live in a very small flat and I can't have a pet here. And as much I love dogs, I just can't have one. So I have lots of plants in my flat. I tried to count it the other day and I think I went something over 40. So, you know, and they're still growing and still happening. So I'm really happy about that. And I try to give them all the love that I can, as if I would to the pet that I don't have, right? I must say that I'm really happy to have basically grown up in a house where there was plants everywhere. My mom has real green fingers, and there were palm trees and cacti and all the different types of plants you can imagine. So that was a really good start for me. And I tried to do the same when I started living on my own, but some of the plants, you know, wilted, some of them died, some of them were too wet all the time, and it was just a mess. And once I asked my mom about this, like, what is the thing that she does to the plants that makes them thrive so much? And she seriously only said, the more you have, the more survives. And this is something that I've taken on, and I try to have as many as possible, and realistically that works. It's a constant struggle with the plants. It is true, right? There's no plant that doesn't need your attention at all, ever. And different plants require different needs. So it is a bit of a struggle sometimes. It's true. And I like also to grow plants from seeds and from offshoots that my friends give me. So, you know, trying to just grow these sometimes is a bit tricky. And I think that it's really important for us to, you know, when we're all traveling and working and just really trying to live the life to the fullest, the plants really are the best option for us to have. Something, what happened in the chat? I can't see it now. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Marta. So if you have any questions throughout, obviously write it in the Zoom chat. Yeah, of course. Okay, guys, so can you just say something about yourself, please? I would really appreciate that. So obviously I can see your name, but if you just could tell me where you're from and if you have any plants in your house and how is that going? So please, Sam, if you'd like to start. Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good, nice. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Sam. I have one window in my flat, and I think it's west facing, but maybe I'm wrong about that, or east, east facing. So we used to have this IKEA plant, which died. We have a cactus over here that's dead. You can see these are withering. They're almost dead. Everything dies in my flat. My flat is a dark place.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Sam. I'm definitely gonna have some tips for you what to do with your dark flat. Okay, and then we've got Tamas. Hello, Tamas. Are you there? Maybe we'll try. No? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Um. Okay. Fair enough. I asked something and the people left. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, well, I'm gonna carry on nevertheless. Doesn't matter. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So why do we need plants in our flats? Now that's a very important question. So first of all, they reduce our stress levels, right? You know that if you look into the greenery often enough, it really relaxes you, it calms you down. So it's kind of like a healing process that you can really have inside your own home. I personally find it extremely therapeutic to work with plants, to replant them, repot them. Just taking care of them is something that I really enjoy, and it brings me a lot of joy to see the plants actually doing well. A lot of the plants also have like really nice effects in terms of cleaning the air or clearing the air, and a lot of them even bring a lot of moisture into the house. So if you live in a drier apartment, there are some that can really help with the basically the air, just the quality of air in your flat. And one more thing that I find quite intriguing, that's a thing that I found recently as well, is that obviously if you look at it from the philosophical perspective, the taking care of another creature, of another being, of a plant, right? You kind of encourage taking care of yourself as well. So it's some sort of like cleansing from the inside as well if you do that yourselves. Yeah, so it can have really many reasons for us to do this. Now, if we look at what plants actually need, now this is quite basic, but still it's worth it to mention all these things. So obviously plants need water, in case you didn't know, right? So it depends on the plants. Yeah, we've got plants that need watering twice, 3 times a week to like once a month. Some plants don't need any water in winter. Some, you just have to figure out what the plant really needs. Obviously the internet is a great source of inspiration in this sense, but it's just worth it to bear in mind that really that is very varied with the plants. What will overwater one plant will actually be really good for another plant. Some plants just require misting. Yeah, so it's important to focus on that. When it comes to watering plants, it's usually good to water them not from fresh water, just from the tap, but have a couple of bottles that you regularly fill with water. And the water that has been standing still for hours or days is actually much more beneficial to the plants than the fresh water that comes from our taps. Nothing against Prague water, nothing against the water in the Czech Republic, but it's just better for the plants because there's a lot of bacteria, a lot of things that the plants will actually be happy with. Yeah. If you've got a plant that requires a lot of water, it's actually a really good idea to put it on a tray with stones to keep some water in there and just put it there so the roots may be all the time in water. If you know that you're going maybe on a weekend trip or something, this might be a good idea to make sure that they stay okay over the hot summer days that we're surviving right now. When it comes to light and temperature, those are two very important factors as well. Again, it depends mostly on the plant. Most plants prefer light, but not direct sunlight. There is very few plants that actually thrive off direct sunlight. That can be quite detrimental to a lot of them. I will show you what it does to some that are not really enjoyable, that really do not enjoy it. I'll show you later. And the temperature can also be a big deal because some plants, like a lot of herbs, for example, do not like temperatures that are too high. They might enjoy the direct sunlight, but then, for example, basil does not do well if it gets dry throughout the day, which if you keep it outside these days, it will get dry during the day. So then it becomes kind of wilted and like light green and it's not so tasty anymore. So it's also something to take into consideration. When it comes to plant food, like feeding your plants, I like to add a little bit of food fertilizer, plant fertilizer into my plants from time to time. I would say like every 2 or 3 months, I have these little liquid fertilizers that I use they're specifically for indoor plants. So you can get that. You just put a little bit of the liquid into your watering can, and then you just water the plants with it. That's really easy, and it really helps the plants to get that extra nutrients that they might not get from the soil normally. And then if we go really into chemistry and into the specifics of this, there are 4 things that every plant needs as well, which are potassium, salt, iron, and nitrogen. Yeah. Surprising. We don't need these that much, especially nitrogen, right? But salt, for example, is something that helps basically on the cellular level in the plant, but we can't overdo it also with the plant. So then if you, for example, see that your soil on the plant is a bit like, has like a white tint to it and like crunchy, maybe that's too much salt, definitely. Yeah. So we have to work out also how these work, but this is really, really specific. And I don't really want to go into this because they're specific. If you go into a DIY store where we can get our soil, usually they sell you the soil that's already ready for houseplants, so you don't have to worry about this too much. Yeah. Then obviously you can have your soil taken to a lab and taken apart properly to find out really what's in it, but that's really like, you know, high level plant life, so it's a bit too advanced even for me, I must say. Okay, so we've looked at what they need. So let's look at the different types that we can keep in our flats. Yeah. So I mentioned some plants for clearing the air. Now, this is something that I think every flat should have at least a couple plants that do this. And some of them are not even that difficult to maintain. So it could be quite nice. And also some of them are really nice, like blooming ones. So it might be interesting to consider that. So the first one I've got here is the Boston fern. You can see it in the top right corner. Yeah, the fern, beautiful, beautiful, very leafy, very green plant. It really does not require that much apart from a lot of water. Yeah, so if you know that you can water the plant, let's say once a week, and you can make sure that the soil is still moist, this plant will thrive in any kind of corner that's a bit darker. They don't really enjoy direct sunlight, but somewhere on the ground, maybe somewhere on a stool in a corner next to a window, that's where this plant would really be happy. And they look so pretty. I mean, it's a piece of the forest, you know? So like we need to have that in our houses, right? It's really, really cute. Another one that's quite nice is English ivy, which likes a bit more sunlight, but also you can put it into like the less sunny parts of your flat. It does not like heat. Yeah, it's also one of those that prefers slightly moister ground, but it will really do wonders to your air in the flat. It really, really creates this like amazing, like kind of humid, earthy feel to it. And it's really nice. And just be careful if you've got any small animals that could nibble on this, like rabbits. It is slightly toxic. Yeah, so careful with that. Another great plant and a whole actually group of plants really good for clearing the air are palm trees. And palm trees are really one of my favorite things to grow because they need next to nothing, basically. Yeah, it's really, really easy to have a little palm tree. It just grows, it's happy. You water it like once every 2 weeks, maybe a bit more in the summer, but they really can thrive in like darker places. I don't know, you can see one over there in the corner, hopefully. Yeah, the big green leaves, that's a palm tree. One thing that I really like about these things is that if you give them a full can of water, because they really like big pots, so you can put a full can of water, a full bottle of water, in a week, it sprouts a new leaf. Yeah, amazing, amazing, really. And when they become a bit drier, the leaves start wilting at the ends of the tips. So you know that either the leaf is just old and the plant just wants to move on, or there is not enough water. Yeah, so they're really easy to take care of. And they're beautiful and they're big, you know, and they grow and palm leaves, palm trees, who doesn't like palm trees, right? Another one that's really good for clearing the air is a peace lily. That's this beautiful white flower at the bottom. They're really pretty. They're really, really nice. They are actually a plant that is amazing for clearing the air. Actually, according to some NASA research, this is the top plant for clearing the air. and they're really pretty. They're fairly easy to take care of. They release a lot of moisture into the air, and they don't need a lot of light. Yeah, so again, you can have them in some like darker corner somewhere, and they'll always look pretty, or on your desk, you know, where you need some plant light. They're really nice and really easy to take care of. I must say that I have one that I've had for a couple years. I've had her here on the direct sunlight of the window where it wasn't really so happy, and now I moved her to another part of my flat, and it's blooming and it's beautiful. So I recommend that one as well. And the last one that I've got here, if you like something that actually flowers, yeah, like some actual like colorful flowers, then there is a plant called Florist Mum, which is a part of the chrysanthemum family as well, and they thrive of sun. So you know, you can put them somewhere on the windowsill and they will be blooming all year round in like 8-week batches, basically. So there'll always be 8 weeks of flowering, then they will recover a little bit, and then they will blooming once again. They will bloom once again. And they're really, really pretty. They come in all sorts of colors. You can see the white and the purple here, but you've got also red and pinkish and yellow. So really a lot of nice possibilities. And they're also quite small. Yeah, so if you've got smaller flat and like flowers, then this one definitely could be good. Okay, let me have a drink. Okay, next one. If the light is low. So Sam, this could be something for you. So again, these plants are less likely to flower. Yeah, obviously, if the light is lower, we're looking more for something green or even darker in color in terms of the leaves. Yeah. So for example, one that's really nice, and I don't have any personal experience growing it, but I know that it's a plant that's quite sturdy and can really withstand even like dark corners, is the rubber plant. Yeah, they're really pretty. It's the top right corner one with the really dark leaves. You can see them with like lighter colors, darker colors. There's really a lot of different types of them. So really not a difficult one to take care of. Like you water it, I would say every 2 weeks roughly, and it will be very happy. Yeah, so I would say that one could be good. Another one that's great actually for hanging is the spider plant. You can see the second picture, the thing that's hanging with like the long leaves. They like low light or semi-sunny. If you put them somewhere when it's direct sunlight, they will probably just wilt and die. Yeah, so really some, you know, if you've got like a corner somewhere that's really dark, that could really work with this beautiful plant, and it grows quite quickly as well. It's like it's a crazy one that if it's doing well, if it's got a lot of moisture, it will sprout a new thing, new leaf pretty much every week. So they grow really quickly. Another one that I actually do have personal experience with is the Chinese money plant. It's the one middle here. It's also called Pilea. Maybe you've heard about it somewhere. I was given this beautiful plant as a tiny baby from a friend of mine, and there was too much light and I killed it. It was very, very sad. I was very devastated, I must say, because they're so pretty. When they're small, they've got really like nice, tiny, cute little round leaves, and they grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can get them up to like this big later, but sadly I have to try again. So they're really, they need pretty much darkness and they need a lot of water. So the second the plant really dries out, the plant dies. Yeah, so here we have to be careful with the water, which I wasn't, and I've learned, hopefully. Another one that's really good for the darkness is the dragon tree, which is the one here at the bottom in the big white pot. Careful with this one. Again, it's toxic to pets. Yeah, so if you've got dogs or cats who like to nibble on plants, might be a bit tricky. But you can definitely put this plant in a dark corner somewhere on the floor, you know, even in the bathroom or something, and they'll be happy there. They sprout new leaves also quite quickly if they're doing well. The only thing you need to do, like with most of these like palm kind of trees, you kind of have to cut the dry leaves off sometimes to keep it nice and like, you know, to make sure that it has the space to grow as well. So because they grow quite quickly, it's important to repot them, I would say every year, every maybe 2 years, depending on how quickly the plant is growing. And the last one that I've got here is Philodendron. This is a beautiful plant. You can see the holes in the leaves. I always found those fascinating. It does come from the jungle originally, but not from like the wet, humid jungle that we can imagine. But yes, some parts of the Amazon as well that are not so wet, and they live usually in the darkness. Yeah, so they really don't need much light. So I'm sure that you can find something of these that if you know that your flat is a bit darker, these will definitely all thrive there. And I think that these four are very visually pleasing, you know, very lots of different types and shapes that you can really enjoy the visuals of. Okay, then the next part, this is something that I think we are all familiar with. If you keep forgetting about your plants, yeah, it does happen sometimes, even to the best of us, that we just forget, oh, I haven't watered them in 2 weeks. Oh my God, is it gonna die? So these plants that I have here will not die. Yeah, personal experience with all of them. So the first one that I've got here is the golden pothos, which is something that in Czech we call it voděnka, which literally translates as the plant that loves water. Yeah. But don't be scared. If you don't water it for 2-3 weeks, nothing is going to happen to this plant. It might just maybe not grow so fast, because what this plant does is that it creates these like long offshoots, and maybe you can see it on the behind me on the library there. I've got the bookshelf, because they create these like long kind of liana things that keep sprouting new leaves all the time. And also, if you actually by accident like cut it or you damage it, you can just take the rest of the plant, put it in water, and it will sprout roots in a week. And then you can plant it again. So it's an amazing little plant. I really like it. It is really good for like, you know, top shelves, wherever you've got one, because they will just crawl on the furniture. There's no direct sunlight there, so they will not be damaged. They also prefer the fresher air that's like up top. But also one very interesting thing about these is that they change their coloring slightly based on how much light they get. So you can see here on the picture in the top right corner that they've got white spots. The ones that I've got here are more darker, just like maybe like a little like green spot on them. White spot on them, but mostly darker green because they're on the top of the shelf. So they're all not in the direct light. So it's very interesting as well, because you can really get out of this one type of plant lots of different colors if you put them in different places of your flat. So I find them really fascinating. Also, it's impossible to kill these things, seriously. It's impossible. You leave them and they just survive. Another thing that survives literal hell is the jade plant, which is the one with the blue background here on the right side. This one that we can see here on the picture is more made into like a tree thing, but usually you can have them from really small to bigger to even like, I think the highest one I've seen was about this tall. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, like 50 centimeters roughly. And that's a plant that I forgot to water because I put it in my bedroom on the windowsill. I forgot about it for 3 months and it still lives. It's beautiful. I love it. So this is definitely a plant that I can recommend. And one of the great things about it is that if you just take one of those leaves and put it in water, it creates roots very quickly. And then you can just put that tiny little leaf in soil and it immediately creates a beautiful plant. Within like a month, you already have like a couple more leaves there and it's really nice. The only thing that I found is that when you put it outside in this heat, it really does not do well, and it does not do well with cold. So really, that's a plant that in our country has to stay inside the whole year. You can't even take it for a walk. It has to stay inside. Yeah. Another one that's really good is the yucca plant. Yucca plants love sun. Yeah. So if you've got like a warm balcony or a windowsill where they can be, they're beautiful. Obviously, it's a kind of a tree, so you need a bit more space to put it. But if it's got sun, it really doesn't need much more. I've got 2 of these on my terrace. They're very happy. They're very happy with the rain that's happening. and I don't really have to do anything else. Just make sure that there is enough soil and repot them occasionally when the roots just grow too big. So really easy one as well. Another of my favorites is the Christmas cactus. You can get a Christmas variety or a Easter variety. That's the one here at the bottom with the purple flowers. Yeah. Sometimes you get them with purple flowers, sometimes with like Bordeaux, kind of like dark pink. They're beautiful. They're really nice. And the funny thing about them is they only bloom around that time. So around Christmas or around Easter. How do they know? No idea, but they know. And it's really, really nice. So most of the year you've got this plant with like cute little leaves. Also, you can just like take off one of the leaves, put them in water, also roots within a week. So very quickly, grow very quickly. And if you give it enough soil, enough water, they will definitely be happy. And they can do with sun, semi-darkness, like really pretty much anything. And they're really not demanding in terms of water. So a nice one as well. And the last one that I've got here is aloe. Aloe is great. I really like those plants. I must say that since I started having them in my flat, I completely gave up on any medicine for burns, because this is seriously the best thing you can have. You just basically water it from time to time, put it somewhere where there is a bit of light. Again, I think that this is a great plant because it looks very pretty. It's the one here at the bottom right. Yeah, just like the offshoots there. It's really, really kind of neat to look at. You know that it's not gonna like shed any leaves or anything like that. And if you get burned, you need to just cut a piece off and cut the leaf in half. And there's like kind of like soft green meat inside it. You just use that as a gel. And it's really, really good. It's really healing. And then you usually don't even have a blister if you do it fast enough. So I really recommend them. They're one of those like amazing like medicary herbs that we can use in our homes as well. Okay, let's move on. Oh. My biggest problem usually is that I overwater my plants. Yeah, that is like a thing that usually happens to me. Now, not so much anymore because I'm doing better, but it can happen that we just want to give them too much love, right? We give them too much love and we give them too much water. So there are some specific plants that can actually thrive of this. So the first one I've got here is the Aglonema, top right corner. They love water. They can be in standing water, not a problem for them. You can see here the green variety, but they also come in like purplish, reddish, pinkish shades. And it's a type of plant that's really like, you can see them very often in DIY stores. You can see them in florists a lot because it really does not, you cannot practically kill it with water. Yeah, it will just happily swim in the pot and be happy there. So that's a good one for that. Another one, and I actually have this beauty here, is called Baby's Tears, which is something that I found out only 2 days ago, that it's called Baby's Tears. Look at this beauty. Look at it. I love it. A friend gave it to me and he said, you know, it was sitting in the florist. It was looking so sad. So I brought it to you. So now I've got this beauty. It's about twice as big as it was when he gave it to me, which is about half a year ago. So you can see that it grows really, really quickly. They're really good for hanging because they've got these little things hanging off them and they will just keep growing towards the sun, usually somewhere towards, if you put them like in semi-direct light, or yeah, they can also thrive with pretty much anywhere. But the one thing that you have to do with them is occasionally you have to cut the offshoots because they just tend to grow like crazy. If you don't do that, you just have them everywhere eventually. So they're also ideal for hanging. Yeah, they'll be just like happily there. Another one that I've got here is the one on the left, Cyperus. Cyperus, this is the name of the plant. I personally know it as Papyrus. Yeah, that kind of tall plant that lives in Egypt that they made paper from. That is a plant that lives in swamps. Yeah, I'm really proud of this baby. I like it so much that even though it does not like direct sunlight, I have it on my busiest windowsill with the most sunlight, and you can see that it's not completely happy. It's a little bit yellowish at the ends, but I just like looking at it so much, you know, it's so pretty. and so fresh, and it grows so quickly. It also blooms with these beautiful like light green blooms. So they're actually the happiest in usually in like yeah, bathroom, pretty much. Yeah, you can put them in the bathroom because there it's always moist, the air, and it will help them a lot that you won't have to water them so much. But if you do, they will not mind because they love the water. And the last one that I've got here about the ones that love to be watered is the pitcher plant, the bottom right. Yeah, they you might know them. They're the carnivorous plants. They are very good for catching insects. For example, if you've got too many flies or fruit flies or anything like that. I think I used to have some when I was a kid, and some of them even like got rid of my mosquitoes. So they're really cool. They're really nice. They have this very specific look to them. The very like the greenery, the leaves are very juicy, very like nice, lovely green, and then they have these like big bags, let's say, yeah, where at the bottom of the bag there is actually acid that kills the insects. Yeah, so when an insect is lured into this bag, then it just closes very quickly, and the insect is trapped in there and eventually dissolves in the acid, which is quite brutal, but really useful if you know you've got a lot of insects in your house. And this plant also, because it is from, I believe, from the Amazonia as well. It likes to have a lot of water, but because it's usually standing in still water, it's better to water them with distilled water or rainwater, yeah, with something that does not come from the tap. So especially careful with these. Okay, so another two groups that I definitely need to mention, is herbs, right? Herbs are great for cooking. So I think that we all saw at the beginning of spring that every single potraviny in supermarket was selling these herbs, right? With different, like small ones, but we have to be really careful when buying these little ones, because usually what they do, and what they do in Albert as well, I found out that they take the basil plants and they put extra basil plants into it. So it actually looks like the plant is really rich, but then you take it home and there's like half of it falls off when you take it out of the plastic. So just be careful when you're buying these, not from like an actual plant store. Yeah, because sometimes obviously we've got two types of plants, herbs, sorry. We've got the one-year plants, which is usually basil, rosemary, and coriander or cilantro plant. These three are, rosemary is fairly easy to take care of. It doesn't really need much. It doesn't really like direct sunlight too much, but you don't have to water it that much. Coriander and basil, on the other hand, are plants that you have to make sure every day that they have at least a little bit of water. Yeah, basil especially. Basil, if you leave it 2 days in this heat without watering, it will like become really sad and then looks like it's going to die. But then if you water it within 2 hours, it's again like happy and green. So just keep an eye for it. I think that windowsills are a good place, maybe a balcony if you've got one. That can be really nice. They also prefer a lot of sunlight, so just keep that in mind. But then you can use them in cooking, right? So, and basil especially is something that's wonderful in cooking, so it's really nice to have one at home. Then the more year ones are thyme, chives, mint, oregano, and lavender, just to name a few. Obviously there's many more, but these ones are easy to get in the Czech Republic. So thyme, obviously, you can even put it in the ground, and all of these you can put in the ground and they will just stay there. So if you've got a balcony or a terrace or something, they can just be there all year round. If you don't, you can have them inside in a little pot, and they're also really nice to cook with. Chives are very typically Czech, and also they're in pretty much every Czech garden, and they're used for a lot of things in cooking. So that's quite nice, and also super easy to take care of. And they bloom with these beautiful purple blooms that you can eat, and they're really nice, like kind of garlicky. Mint, obviously, we all know mint. Mint is great for teas. It's really good for stomach issues as well. So I think that having a mint plant in your house is kind of good, useful for many reasons. Oregano, obviously another plant that we know quite well. And lavender, well, lavender smells beautifully, right? They also look really pretty. Even if you put them in a small pot or a big pot, that's really like, doesn't matter. The one thing that's important with lavender is that it should not stand in water. It has to be drained regularly, because when the roots are very much likely to start rotting if there is too much water in there. So maybe if you have it somewhere, try to have it on a big tray with maybe other plants that would take more of the water, and then the water through the lavender could go through. But then they bloom really often, they smell beautifully. And obviously if you have some of the flowers on the lavender, you can then cut them off and put them into little bags, you know, or put them in your bed or put them in your clothes or whatever to make things smell nice. So it's a very versatile plant. You can also use it for, you know, like cocktails or for cooking, even in salads. It's quite nice. So I think that that's definitely very versatile plant. And I cannot leave this without talking about succulents and cacti. I must say, personally, I have a very complicated relationship with cacti specifically, because my mom, as I mentioned earlier, has really green fingers, and it, at some point, I think when I was about 15, it got slightly out of hand, where she had about 650 cacti in our house. And we moved to a different country and we had to take all of them with us. Yeah, so that was absolutely crazy. So keep your things in check as well. It's good to have a small flat, because then you know you can't fit 600 plants in there, but they offer an amazing array of plants of different types, shapes, sizes, different beautiful flowers. Yeah, so they're very interesting. But obviously if you have to repot them every year, and then you suffer for a week from having needles everywhere, you can't take them out, it can get a bit on your nerves sometimes. But if you're just gonna have a couple in your flat, they're great because they're so easy to maintain, right? So just looking at succulents, the beautiful picture on the left, all the beautiful colors, those are all succulents. Yeah, they are also practically impossible to kill, which is great about them. There's about 40 different types of succulents, different sizes, shapes, colors. Usually they're very small, so that's why they're quite popular, have to be in flats. You know, people have them in little pots. You can have lots of different types, different colors next to each other. They always look cute. They're always nice. So I think, yeah, Marta, there we go. That's beautiful. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. And so just basically cacti are a subgroup of succulents. They're the desert type of succulent. So they actually thrive in heat and in drought. Yeah. So the less water you give them, the better. Usually in the winter period, when it's cold, if you've got a house, then it's good to put them in the cellar. If you've got them on the windowsill, put them somewhere where there is not so much light, because they're kind of hibernating for winter. And you also don't need to give them any water if you're going to keep them in the darkness. They're not going to grow, but you can have that couple months where really the plant is just going to sleep, and then it wakes up again when the sun comes, which is beautiful. And also most cacti have beautiful flowers, like all sorts of colors, all sorts of shapes. Some of them bloom only at night. So, you know, you really get a lot of like variety from these plants. I'm just going to show you one that I'm particularly proud of. Look at this thing. So this thing is older than me. Yeah, this thing was my grandma's cactus. And you can see that some parts of it, I don't know, the light here is not ideal, but some parts of it are pretty much stone. They're hard. It's really the plant basically at this point, like it died and then it started growing again. Yeah. So even if a cactus looks dead, it doesn't mean it's dead. It will just grow again if you give it a little bit water and some love, obviously, and then you've got needles everywhere. So yeah. But they can survive anything. Yeah, this plant survived about, I think, about 10 different movings from house to house. It has been in the cellars, it has been on windowsills, it has been on the terrace. They can survive anything. And with just a bit of water, they'll be really happy every now and then. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the problems that can plant have. I try to make this as comprehensive as possible, but there's so many things that can go wrong that I ended up making this crazy diagram here. So the colorful ones are the issues that we can have, yeah? So the water, the problems basically, what is the issue? So water, insects or diseases, the nitrogen or iron deficiency, light or salt, yeah? So basically what happens the most often is when the leaves start yellowing or when the leaves are falling. Both of these two things are related either to water, light, or some sort of disease. Yeah, let's leave the diseases because that's very, very specific. And if you see some sort of issue that goes deeper than just the wilting leaves, then usually it's the insects. And then I would say that it's a good idea to go into some sort of DIY store and buy a little spray that gets rid of the insects. Yeah. But the water and the light is something that we can work with ourselves as well. So basically, if the leaves are yellow, you can go either way. It's either too much water or too little water, or not enough light or too much light. Yeah. So again, if you see that your plant is having some issues, then it's good to just move it to a different place first. Yeah, because that's the easiest thing to do. Just move it away from the windowsill or away from the wherever you're keeping it to a different place, because usually that's gonna help in some way. Then a week, two later, if you see no change in the plant, try changing the water regime for the plant. Yeah, water it a little bit less. I think that for watering in general, what's a really good rule of thumb is that if you put your thumb into the pot and it's a bit moist, yeah, it has to be a bit moist. If it's dry, then for most plants, that means that it's too much, unless it's one of the ones that I said that love water. Yeah, but for most plants, if you feel the soil is dry, they need a bit of watering. All the other things, the things that I mentioned with the salt, the white crust, yeah, again, the falling leaves could be connected to that. I think that really this just depends on what do you have in your flat, and just playing around with a little bit. Yeah. Because there's so many things that go into the plant's happiness. Another thing could be the fertilizer, if you're using any, temperature, the potassium, maybe even like the size of the plant pot. Yeah. So all these things are obviously something that you have to take into consideration. I'm not saying it's simple, but if you just try focusing on each of those problems in turn, you're eventually going to figure out what's wrong with your plant. Yeah. Okay. So last thing that I've got here is about where to get your plants from. So obviously I kind of realized that most of you guys are expats, right? Or people living in Prague. So you might not want to stay here forever. You might want to, but maybe you're just looking for something for a couple of years. So I understand it's difficult buying plants. I get that. Yeah. But there's so many amazing opportunities now in Prague what you can do with plants that it's really worth it, even if you have it for a year. Yeah, still you're giving a home to a plant. I think that's great. So obviously the biggest source of plant life will be the DIY stores. There's a lot of them here in Prague. You know that Czech people love building stuff, so there is a lot of DIY store like Bauhaus, Obi, Hornbach. All of these are really big. They usually have really good prices on the plants because they sometimes sell wholesale or they sell on business license. So you might have to go somewhere a little bit further away from the center. Yeah, but the selection there will be really good, and you can bet that the plants will be nice and looked after and kind of fresh. Yeah, so that's quite a good tip if you're looking for some, let's say, more regular plants, but you want a wide variety of some like colorful, normal, kind of not too specific, not too exotic things. Another option obviously is florists. Yeah, I personally like going to florists for plants because I usually can have a really nice chat with the ladies or men working there, right, about the plants, which I really enjoy. The only issue with those places is that they tend to be quite expensive. Yeah, because it's usually from some specific place. It's usually some specific type of plant, maybe something more exotic. So that can be nice, and they can give you a lot of really good tips about how to care for the plant, but be prepared to pay a little bit more for it. Another place that I've recently discovered is in Žižkov, and it's called Henke. It's basically like a supportive ecological plant shop. Yeah. The issue is, though, that they're closing down. So you will have to be quick if that's what you want to do. Yeah. Basically, this is a plant where they offer a lot of different types of plants, but all of it goes, basically, it's a non-profit. It started as a non-profit, and they came up with the sale of plants as a side thing to get more money for the projects they were doing. So that's really nice, but the plants are still there, and they have, somebody will have to take care of them, you know. So I assume that if you go on their Facebook, or if you go visit the place, that can be really nice. Another place that I personally adore, and I find it quite expensive, but I love going there, is Zahrada na niti, which literally means a garden on a string, which is a little shop in the center, like 2 blocks from Wenceslav Square. And it was opened by this lovely lady who loves creating basically creative different ways of having plants, of growing plants. So she has a lot of these aerariums. That's a horrible word to pronounce, but air, like terrarium, but with air. So like these like glass balls that she puts a lot of plants inside. Maybe there's moss, maybe there's these like plants that don't need any soil. It's all very pretty, and it's hanging. So it's lovely. It all looks very visually appealing. And I also think that for a small flat, this is something that can be really nice. She also makes a lot of kokedamas, if you ever heard about those, which is basically a coconut rusk or coconut nut, basically, that has the plant or the roots around it and just grows of it. So also it's for hanging. It looks beautiful. I recommend you look it up. I even tried to make one, and it was a disaster, but it all looks really pretty and it's lovely to look at. So that shop can be really nice. It's beautiful as presents as well. Just a little bit on the pricier side, because obviously all of it is hand done and looks very nice. Another thing that I like and enjoy is going to swaps. So swaps definitely are big in Prague, even when it comes to plant life, and it's starting to be a thing again, finally. You can find on Facebook the plant swap or zeleny swap, which zeleny means green, so the green swap, right? You usually see these events on Facebook, so you can just look it up. You can, I think there was one today, I think there's one tomorrow, I think there's one on Friday as well this week, different places of Prague. Usually people just bring some plants, and you can just take whatever you want. Yeah, if you don't bring any plants, well, then I'm sure that that can be done somehow as well, that you pay a little money or something. But there's so many plants that really you just need one offshoot, and it creates a whole plant. So it's really easy to just take that leaf and go for it. Another thing that I like to do is obviously growing things from seeds. You can grow pumpkin, you can grow lemon. This is my lemon plant that I grew from seed. I love it dearly. I'm probably gonna have to cut it a little bit because it's getting out of hand, but it's still growing these beautiful new leaves, and it's doing really well on a windowsill. So that would definitely need a lot of sun. If you're sprouting things from seed, it's nice to put it on the windowsill, keep it really moist, but the sun will really help them grow quickly. And another one, the avocado, obviously. I mean, like, I think that at some point in our lives, we've all tried to grow an avocado. I've tried so many. One has actually, a couple has worked out, but I always leave for the summer, and then the person that I'm that's looking after my plants does not do the same job as me. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I didn't want to go back. I wanted to look at the chat. Yeah, okay. So plants with avocados. So basically, in all honesty, avocados are a plant that is the most sensitive I've ever seen. Yeah. If there is a draft, if there is too much sun, if the water is not regular. All those are the things that will probably start turning it brown. Yeah, especially the draft. They're really not happy when they're like next to a window that's open regularly, because the draft like damages the soft tissue of the leaves when they're young, and then they start wilting already when they're young, and then they don't grow into its full potential. So avocados, really sensitive, but when you manage to grow it, it's actually a really nice plant. I've got a little tree here, but also some of the leaves are wilted. Yeah, I don't think that it's possible in our in this country to grow it perfectly. I mean, it's a tree that lives in the tropics, right? Or Spain, south of Spain. So obviously our weather is not ideal, but I keep it inside. I almost never take it out, and it's happy in the flat. So it gets only like morning sunlight, and I cut it quite regularly as well, because it has a tendency to grow upwards all the time. And obviously there's the wall, there's the ceiling, there's nothing, nowhere else where it can go. So keep it short, keep it somewhere where there is not too much draft, and be regular with how much water you give it and when. Yeah, I think that could really help the plants. But yeah, I've also, this was a long process to find these things out, I must say. Okay, and definitely one last thing that has to be mentioned here is stealing from your friends. I'm sure that your friends have plans. I'm sure that your friends can give you a little offshoot, you know, of something, and just put it in water and see what happens. Because realistically, every time I see that the plant is too big or it's just growing out of shape or something, I just cut it off. I put it in water, and most times they sprout some roots. So then it's a small plant that's ready to live another life, you know? So I really recommend trying that. That could be a good idea. Okay, so that's all from me. Is there any more questions that you'd have about your plant life that I can answer? Go for it, Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear
All
you
right.
now.
You mentioned like one of the earlier slides about having to repot one of your plants. What's like a really good like telltale sign that it's time you should repot?
I should have brought from the outside, because there is one that definitely needs repotting. When you see the roots, when you start seeing the roots of the plant, or when you lift the plant by its body, if it's a palm tree, easier, if it's a yucca, easier, but if you lift it up and it comes in your hand with the roots, yeah, because that means that the pot is too small. Yeah.
Cool.
And I have a question. Is it also like this with the orchids?
Wow.
Because they are like, their roots are always, and we have a problem because we don't know actually if we should change the pot or not for a bigger one. Because I heard that they like to be tight, the roots, but
I personally don't have any orchids yet, in absolute honesty, but from what I've seen and heard, they thrive most of the air anyways. So the soil is not so important for them. It's just to have the misting with the water, right? And maybe you can even mist it with fertilized water. So that could also work. And they realistically don't need that much in terms of the pot itself. So it can be quite a small pot, and you get a huge plant growing from it if they're on the sunny side of the house. So I think that should be okay in terms of orchids. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I don't have to be worried about them. And I have also a question about this flower, which is like taking care of the bugs and the mosquitoes. Does it always have these fruits or these bugs? I don't know what is this.
The bags, yeah, the bags that look really suspicious. Yeah, actually they do. Like they start with only the leaves, or like long dark green leaves, and the second they start having enough water and enough like stuff that they need, they will start growing these things. So they will have them, and the more obviously that means that the plant is happy, right? So yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, So I think if no more questions, we can probably finish here. How do you
Yeah.
feel? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I just wanted to say that it was great, and you are really truly like a plant mother, and
I love
and
that.
your attitude towards them is like they are literally your babies.
Oh yeah, they really are. They really are. They definitely are, and I love them 100%. As I said, no pets, so it's all the love goes to the plants. Yes.
I do have a question actually.
Yes, go for it.
So we buy the herbs from Albert,
Mhm.
and then we water them, we put them by the window, and they always die in like 5 days. Is
Mhm.
this because of Albert, or are we doing something wrong?
Okay, so you bought them from Albert. Which ones did you buy?
Like in
Basil.
the soil, like basil.
Yeah. Which ones did you get?
Basil.
Basil. Yeah. Okay. Basil. Whatever is the correct pronunciation. We know what we mean. You know what? When I bought them, because I also bought the Albert one. That's how I know that there were like leaves put in it, which was I found that horrific. I repotted it immediately after I bought it. I put it into a bigger pot with some extra soil, and I think that was the key to the plant actually not dying immediately, because I think that the soil they use might not be the best one. Yeah, the nutritionally it's very poor. So maybe just buy a small pot, small bag of soil and a pot, and just repot it. Or one of those like longer ones, you can have more of them and you can have it on the windowsill. But the basil really like needs a lot of water. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. You can't have it somewhere where it's too sunny because it dries out. But then it's so rewarding, right? I get it. Yeah, just repot it. As soon as you get it, repot it, then make sure that there is enough water.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, I
Great.
also have always problems with those herbs from the supermarkets. They always actually die every type
Yeah.
we used to get.
It's true. It's true. They're tricky. They're tricky.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your attention, guys.
Thank you too.
Yeah,
Thank
It
you.
was really good.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It's-
Something different, huh? Okay.
Okay. So we will just publish it on our website and I will send you.
Thank you. Okay, guys. So have a lovely rest of your evening, and I'll see you soon again, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.